Hello and welcome to Life.EV, a podcast that dives into exploring values. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, and lead an air conditioning company, Nova, and Pureblu, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. for conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey to uncover our true purpose and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.EV, where we explore values in life and business. And as always, I have Vivek Asrani with me. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
Hi Ajit, how are you? Good to see you again.
Right. Great to have you back again this week.
Thank you.
To all, to all our listeners, Vivek Asrani is the driving force behind Camo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. And now, for close to 4 years, he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. These insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time, Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought provoking read is available on Amazon, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional lives. In today's episode of Life.EV, we're delving into a topic, the distinction between the decoding our desires. Vivek, let's hear from you on this reflection.
So Ajit, desires are like seeds, unmanifested seeds, which if you take a real world example, a seed then germinates and becomes a plant, and then a tree, and then gives fruits, flowers, and fruits. So similarly, we also live with a lot of unmanifest desires within. Now, these desires have the ability to create thoughts in the mind and action at the body level, which is why desires at one level become the propelling force in us. We do what we want to do, and if we have a desire for something, it kind of propels us into action, and we work towards it. So that is one nature of the desire. Second is, when we work towards achieving and fulfilling our desires, there are two effects. One is whether we achieve it or not, whether we fulfill our desire or not. And second is what happens to us internally. We have to work with expectation. To think that we can work without expectation is not true at all. Expectation drives us to work hard. But finally, we have to remember that it is our work that will help us achieve, and not just the expectation or the desire. But the second is we have to learn acceptance. So if our desires propel us into action, the acceptance in us keeps us grounded so that we don't face disappointment if our desires are not fulfilled. The third thing is that internally, if we continue our association with the desire even after it has been fulfilled, it is like adding oil to fire, where we only further strengthen it, and that desire becomes stronger in us, and then we want more and more and more. And before we know it, what we thought started off as just a simple desire, and we felt, okay, let me just get this once, and then it's out of my system. Instead of it getting out of our system, it just grows so big in us. And a common example is somebody having a drink, for example. They say, okay, let me just have one drink. And then you're constantly associating yourself with, oh, that was such a great experience. And say, okay, let me have one more. And every time you're passing a place where you can get that, you find yourself getting pulled because your desire is now propelling you in that direction. And because of the mental association with our desire, even post the action, it just becomes so strong in us. So that's the one thing we have to be aware of, and sometimes careful about. So desires are the propelling force. They have an external impact. We either fulfill it or not. We must learn to also live with acceptance, because not all desires are going to get fulfilled. External desires, once fulfilled, if we continue our mental association with it, just further strengthens it internally, and then before we know it, it just kind of becomes a kind of an obsession, and the desire kind of grips us. So I think this, in a nutshell, Ajit, is my reflection on just kind of decoding our desires. And the last point is, of course, desires are mostly pointed and directed in the world outside. And over a period of time, when we realize that fulfilling our desires and being happy, which is why we do anything we do, is really a function of the number of desires that we entertain and the number of desires that are fulfilled. So if the numerator is the number of desires fulfilled and the denominator is the number of desires entertained, that ratio is really the quotient of happiness. So we can either focus on the numerator and keep exhausting more and more and more desires, or we can be a little mindful and saying, look, do I want to always live my life facing outwards, or do I want to now start turning inwards? And then that's when the desire for that inner joy and that inner journey kind of starts in us.
That's interesting, yeah. But these when you talk about desires, it's a natural for humans to have it. But the challenge is, how does one differentiate between a desire and a need? And is it not okay to have a desire even if it's not a need?
So it is very natural to, we all live with desires. It's very natural to have desires. So, I mean, let's take hunger. Hunger is a need, right? So, and therefore there is a desire for food every time the body triggers off, the message that, listen, now I need some nourishment. So to that level, it's very simple. The issue sometimes is when there is a mental association with an object or an experience, and we are constantly thinking about it. Oh, I want to eat that particular food. Okay. And I will then go out of my way to get it. Until I don't get it, I'm agitated. And if I land up over there and for some reason I don't get that food, either because the restaurant is closed or I'm not getting place or that particular food is over, because I've built such a big expectation in my mind, I then get disappointed. I get agitated. Now that's a small example of eating, but it's true for everything else in life. There are so many things in life that we desire. It could be a position, it could be power, it could be a certain amount of wealth, it could be success in a particular area. And if I benchmark my happiness and my inner security to the achieving of that particular thing, then I run the risk of being terribly disappointed, agitated, and I lose my internal balance if I don't achieve it. I feel that if I achieve it, I'll be happy. Yes, I will be happy. But if my mental association with that carries on even after that desire has been fulfilled, then actually what I'm doing is I'm fueling it even more, and it'll come back in a stronger way to say, I want more and more and more. Now, in a way, there's, if you look at it positively, there's nothing wrong at one level, right? If it's channelized in a positive way. For example, let's take a scientist or a great sportsman. Let's say a sportsman breaks a record. So now he's got a desire, okay, I want to do even better, and I want to do even better, and I want to do even better. And he pushes himself or herself, and they set new standards. I think that's great. The most important thing, Ajit, is to live with that acceptance that if the desire is setting the direction for me, acceptance is setting the attitude with which I will receive the result of my action, and not get either fully carried away with the desire that now I can't live without it, nor will I get disappointed. I think that's important. But to say that we will live without desires is absolutely, we can't. We're human, and desires are as natural to us as anything else. And, you're right. How do you differentiate between a need and a desire? I don't even know whether you can really differentiate it that way. I mean, again, this is all semantics. We just need to be aware that if a desire is rising in us, what is the quality of the desire? Because not all desires are necessarily healthy. Second is, if it's a healthy desire. So, okay, if it's an unhealthy desire, then to have the ability to nip it in the bud before it starts gaining root within. Second, if it's a healthy desire, to also be aware that the desire is not feeding my ego, rather, it is fulfilling a purpose. Third, if the desire is going to propel me, great, because it gives me a direction and a purpose and an inspiration in life. But then let me live it out with awareness, with humility, with gratitude, and with a high sense of acceptance that I've given it my best. Now, whatever the result be, so be it. The challenge with desires is that, like fire, the more we put into it, the stronger it becomes, and sometimes it just consumes us. So, desires are healthy if we know how to handle them, but if we don't, then they get the better of us. I don't know what's been your
Was an
experience. I mean, we all live with desires, so you must be having some thoughts on, this.
no, Vivek. See, I know for me, I think I always want to see desire, like from what you just said. It's a very powerful tool. It's not a negative tool at all. It's a very, very powerful tool as long as you know how to choose it. For example, I'm talking from a business perspective. The desire to build a business, the desire to manage people, that's one way of looking at it. But the desire to make an impact is very satisfying. For example, you hire and manage teams. Can you desire that, just rather than just hiring and manage, can you change their lives? Can I make this big impact? I have the desire to change their lives. You're running a business. Can you just have this desire to make, your customers feel wow about it? You're building a company. You've got methods, and you take pride in what those methods. Can I share these methods? And I have the desire, to build this great beautiful company with this awesome and processes and pay, the way it is done. Can I share those things or what I've achieved and make an impact on other companies? I think, it just feel it's worth spending time when you have these very desire to make an impact, that every small thing that you do, uh, suddenly to make an impact makes it very, very satisfying. So for me, I feel this desire is a very powerful tool which you can leverage, as long as like how you said, if you know how to channelize it, you don't let it go beyond, it doesn't come into your ego play around out there. Um, and and I think it's very powerful, and I tend to use some of these tools myself, especially from an enterprise building perspective. But also comes from, sometimes is that, how do you as individuals balance these desires with your core values, especially when they seem to be in conflict? Let me give you an example, and I'd like to get your thoughts around it. I have this huge desire to build a great business, right? You want to build top line, you want to just grow, you have the skill sets, you build a great organization, you have a great team. But hey, to grow my business, I also realize that I need to give a few kickbacks. Now that's in conflict. Now, how do you get to that? That's the whole thing. The desire is good, but it's not aligned with your core values.
So, desires answer to the question, what do I want in life? Values answer to the question, how am I going to live my life? So, desires, you know, drive me to the what, and values anchor me to the how. And the what and the how, Ajit, are actually on two different axes. So, what I want is a great business. How I want to build it is, let's say, in an ethical manner and a clean manner. So, okay, I come across a purchase officer who's corrupt. I will not do business with him. Or I will make my product offering so good that, in spite of him being corrupt, he has no choice but to buy from my company without us having to bribe him, because we've just upped our game to a different level. And sometimes we'll come across a set of people who will not buy from us because their value system doesn't match with ours, and that's absolutely fine. And like I keep telling our people internally, for every five corrupt people out there, there are 95 good companies out there. So don't stress about the five we don't have. Go win the hearts and minds of the 95 who are out there, and make yourself, as good as you can. So I think that's there. But you're absolutely right in one thing, Ajit. we have to be very careful that the desire to succeed cannot blind us and completely, cover our intellect, that we just don't pay any heed to our values. We are so blinded by the desire. And sometimes we, as business leaders, find ourselves using the language which is not correct, where we tell our team, listen, just go get the business, do whatever it takes. Well, guess what? They'll actually go out and do whatever it takes, and then it comes back to hurt us. But who gave that messaging in the first place? So you're absolutely right. Desire, yes, because that's what's going to keep me motivated. I need that fuel to keep going, because without desire, I'll be completely, full of inertia. But it doesn't cloud my judgment and doesn't blind me to such an extent that I forget, what the values are with which I want to, live my life. And
Amazing.
and Ajit, let's be honest, we are all human. We make mistakes. We break rules, cross the line. It happens, right? And I think this is why we need to constantly either keep reminding ourselves, end of the day, just review how things went. And even if we made mistakes, rather than beating ourselves up, we just take a step back, understand. And that's why this whole understanding of desires is important, because very often we're like, how did I even land up here? And when you trace back, you're like, this thing started as a small desire, and without realizing it, I fed it so much of attention, it became so big, it just consumed me. So now I know that next time something like this starts, which can get dangerous, and I'll give you my personal example. I love numbers. I love probability. I can actually sit and watch a game of cards for like 8 hours if I have to. I could be sitting in a casino and watching numbers, roulette, the roll of the dice. I could be sitting for hours and watching it, and I know that I love it, which is one of the reasons I don't gamble. Not so much from a ethical, moral standpoint, but because I know that if I allow that to enter my system, I'll just get carried away. Because I'm just so fond of the dice and the numbers and things. So this is how just being aware of a desire can also be a protection for us, in as much as it is a propelling force.
Amazing. Yeah. Great. That was discussion with some deep insights, but that's what the time we have for today. It certainly gives us all plenty of thoughts to think about the balance between exploring values and business growth. I encourage all of viewers not to keep these ideas to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and family and ask them, what do you think? Spark a conversation and see where it leads. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. Join the dialogue on our social media platforms. Share your questions, your learnings, and the insights you've gained from this episode. It's through these shared experiences and perspectives that we all grow and learn. So don't hesitate to reach out and contribute to this ongoing conversation. Well, that's it for today. Join us next week for another enriching episode of Life.EV, where we continue our exploration into the world of exploring values in our lives. Thank you, Vivek, for your valuable contributions today. And we look forward to diving deeper into these critical discussions in our next session. See you next week, where we unravel more insights and perspectives that shape our ethical compass. Thank you for listening. And remember to reach out to your friends and get a conversation going on life exploring values. Thanks, Vivek. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ajit. Always a pleasure.
Ciao. See you.